Yamat.
Then come and meet your fate. Your foolish journey ends here.
He's out there. I can feel him. I just have to keep looking.
Hey guys and girls, how's it going? Hope you guys are having a great week. So we are back today with a special video today, guys. We're actually going to finally weigh in on Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. So as you all know, Edge and I've got Edge with me today. Thank you for joining me, Edge. Really appreciate it. And today we are going to basically be weighing in on this game. We've been playing it, live streaming it for the past couple of months. Feels like forever. Like, I think we did 10 streams on it, right?
Yeah, we did. We had like
a
few parts. And there was the initial problem with me trying to stream from the PS5 for the first time with sound settings.
But we fixed it all. We worked.
That seems to be my issue with my channel. It's like, oh yeah, what's that? He's messing with the settings again. Nothing's working.
We got there in the end, but we managed to actually finish the game. Played everything through the whole story. We even did some of the post missions and challenges, and I think I put about 50 hours into the game. So we've got a pretty good cross-reference of everything the game has to offer, and we want to weigh in today and let you know what we thought of the game, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then overall what our score is. And hopefully we can keep this as short and concise as possible, because as you guys know, I've had a cold over the last week, so my voice is not what it usually is, but I will try my best. But if I sound like Phoebe Buffet, I do apologize. My sticky shoes. Right, okay, so let's kick off with what we liked about it. I'm going to go first on this, and the first thing I would say I absolutely loved about Stranger of Paradise was the combat. I really enjoyed the combat. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did do. I initially found it a little hard. Like, I did find there's a lot of micromanaging that I wasn't expecting. So like, you have to keep an eye on obviously your health. You have your MP bar, which you use to use abilities. You have to keep track of like blocking, and then there's parrying, and then combos for certain moves and things like that. So at first it was a little overwhelming as someone that was quite new to like kind of these kind of games and the Final Fantasy games, but once I got to grips with the combat, I really enjoyed it. And I think one of the things that really helps the combat was just how varied all of the different classes were, and how many different classes there were available, from your beginner classes to your more advanced master classes. And I tended to focus on those classes that did a lot of damage, so up close in your grill, using big huge massive swords like Cloud's Buster Sword, you know, for Final Fantasy 7, and axes and long swords and things like that. And I really enjoyed the combat. I found the frame rate really smooth. I found the combat really fun. It felt weighty. You felt badass, you know, when you were actually fighting and when you were doing it. So I thought the combat was the best part. And what I really enjoyed with the combat as well is each of the different classes I played as and each of the different weapons I tried, I actually found myself enjoying all of them. And that isn't normal for me. Usually in a game when we're looking at combat, I usually focus on one or two weapons and specialize in those. But I actually found myself not really doing that in Stranger of Paradise. I was actually trying out, you know, the long sword, trying out the sword and shield, trying out the great sword, trying out the huge axe, trying out the lance, you know, and I even dabbled a little bit in magic, like off stream, like when we weren't streaming, just to check it out, to level it up. But yeah, combat was fantastic. What about you, Edge? What did you think of the combat?
I really enjoyed it. I liked that there was like little mini things, like if I was stood in like a pool of water, or my enemies were, I could cast like thunder and cause like the terrain effects. Like I could set fire to things, or I could freeze things, or there was like you had elements of the level around you that could be affected. Combat was quite nice and varied in terms of the mechanics of each class, which was kind of fun. So it was a lot of the time it was like seeing what kind of class I enjoyed.
Yeah.
As time was going on, I never really stuck with one class on stage. At this point,
that was your mainstay. But it was helpful because we played co-op throughout all of it, and I felt that we combined off of each other really well.
Like when you're playing co-op, like you play to your strengths, I play to mine, and we kind of filled in the gaps so where we were kind of weak. So I wouldn't fight very close.
Yeah.
You do all that, and whereas I would fight support by healing you,
Yeah.
casting defense up buffs,
Protect.
nuking it.
And yeah. Ultima, man. It's all about Ultima. That move. It's guys. If you play Sage, you got to get Ultima as soon as possible. Like that move saved our grill on so many occasions. I was like, oh, thank God he's cast Ultima. Wail on this person while they're getting stuck.
Yeah, the only crap I had with the combat with them was the MP magic tree, where like you've got the bar, and so you have to kind of do damage to get that bar back up.
Yeah.
But if I use any of my special abilities, it would lose my maximum MP bar. So then basically, it kind of became this kind of how long can I go before I run out of MP entirely, and then I can't cast that one crucial spell to either heal the party or cast Ultima. And Ultima can miss, despite it being a massive nuclear like sphere.
And he did a few times. Yeah.
The boss will jump out of the way.
Yeah,
or
the
some
bosses were
crazy
getting
thing
cheap
like
or
that.
something. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
my
another
God.
thing I didn't write on my list, but the boss fights in this game were fantastic, in my opinion. They were the highlight for me, and most of our streams, I think they were the highlight of a lot of our streams. Like when we were playing them, a lot of people were enjoying those bosses. So yeah, they were great. What about you? Is there anything else that you want to add on to that you really enjoyed and you really liked?
I would say that I really, in terms of the combat, I really enjoyed the customization of it. So like I could pick some abilities from like the mage and combine them with my samurai, like the flash step you saw me do.
That was awesome. That was
Just
like,
me doing.
like
just
being
like
a
teleport.
ninja. You literally felt like a ninja. I mean, you look like a ninja. You look pretty swish. Although you
So-
were leaving me behind while you were flash stepping off in the level. I'm like,
Those-
hold
for
on.
those who
Us
play Bleach.
mortals back here who don't have flash step, we'll just run behind you and try and dodge attacks. and
For
things.
those who watch anime or who heard of Bleach, for
Naruto.
example.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a massive Bleach nut back in the day. Kuchiki Byakuya or Ichigo Kurosaki just teleporting really fast ahead. Enemies couldn't hit me because I was you had to go and basically get your ass kicked at times because you got hit by the attacks that were meant for me. So
Yes. Thank you for
team
that.
player.
Yes. Well, you made up for it with Ultima, so that's fine. But yeah, the combat for me in this game is without a doubt probably the best part of the game is the combat. And that's good because it is the thing that you are doing the most, right? So it was really important that they did get this right, you know. And this game was made by Team Ninja, so that's obviously the team behind like oh god, the ninja game. What's it called?
Ninja Gaiden.
That's it, thank you. Behind Ninja Gaiden. Oh my god, you can tell I've been ill. So it had that blood, you know, all the way through it, most definitely. Yeah, I mean that was really, really good. So obviously the combat and the weapons, customization. Yeah, like I agree with what you're saying about the different abilities and switching those was great. The weapons and armor for me, I actually really enjoyed them. I initially enjoyed them a lot more earlier on in the game. As you started getting to end game, you get thrown so much loot, so much gear, it becomes almost ridiculous. And you are having to like dismantle and destroy a lot of the stuff you do get, because obviously depending on what class you are, each gear has like a particular job affinity. So depending on what job you're doing, certain gear will be more suited for you depending on what it drops, but all of it is kind of very random. So obviously each gear has its own level, which drops, you know, based on the level that you're at or you're playing, but they all have different sub abilities which can give you some boosted stats and things, and they all have a job affinity, and the higher your job affinity, the better ultimately boosts you get for that class that you're playing. So you want to get your affinity as high as possible, but because it is very randomized, there is no way to control what that job affinity is that's going to roll. So unfortunately it is RNG, so you can get very lucky with your drops, or you could get very unlucky. So there is a certain degree of grindiness with the game, but I will say that the look and style design of the armor sets was very nice. I really liked the art style of all the different armor sets. Some of them were incredibly swish looking, incredibly cool looking. Some of them not as much, but they were funny. But yeah, I've always found like a lot of the gear, you know me, I always like to look swish when I'm kicking butt in a game generally. So I liked the armor designs and the armor styles. I felt there was a good variety there, that you could kit out your different character or job builds to suit the style of that character, you know, so you could make your character look almost ninja-like or samurai-like, you know, depending on who you were playing as. So yeah, I definitely like the weapons and the armor sets. I thought they were really cool.
I am mixed with the armor. So like I liked that there was a variety of different appearances and you could customize it to a degree. However, it felt like you know when you get a reward, you get like that kind of I want to keep on going, get that next bit of loot and try and like with most looter shooters or any looting based game,
you're chasing that gear.
You're chasing that gear because you want to get as strong as possible.
Like
and
Destiny does that fantastically.
Yeah, like most gear to a degree will have some kind of value for at least a little bit. The problem I had with this one was that the gear was replaced so quickly.
Yeah.
You didn't even pay attention to it. You just like press your touchpads to kind of equip what was relevant at the time.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of went on with it. And sometimes it wouldn't even match quite right. I do agree. I think you made a comment before about like it'd be nice to kind of customize like a glamour over what you'd look like.
Yeah.
So sometimes it would look completely weird what your setup was. And I also didn't like the fact that when I play in co-op, I can't change my appearance. It has to be based on your character.
Yeah, that made no sense to me at all. Why they made that design choice? Whether it was a server issue or something to do with that, maybe. Yeah,
I mean, with the gear system and then, like you said, the crafting and like that lot, there's like elements that there's potential there. Like if they were going to make a sequel, like you could maybe hope that they would improve on that and maybe do a bit more kind of stuff to improve on that.
Yeah.
But I would probably say that at the very least right now, the gear there's no value to it. Like I didn't pay any attention to what my stats were on it because like there was nothing to craft. Like the materials needed to upgrade that 1% was so much that I would never do it. So I just wait till my next game.
I'm going to cover that in a lot more detail in my dislikes because that is one of my biggest dislikes of the game, and we'll cover that, you know, when we get to that bit. But yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. The other thing I really enjoyed. Have you got anything else you want to say that you liked that I haven't covered on, or?
Generally the armor designs. The designs of most of the armor sets were just great.
Yeah.
I would like to have seen a bit more variety or like more kind of character themed ones, especially when they're doing the theme of the levels.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Elements from Final Fantasy 4 and 5 and 6 and 7.
The characters didn't feel because they can all wear all of the armor sets. So I always tried to make it so that each character was wearing different armor. So they weren't, but you always had some times where they were wearing the same armor, and it was like, it felt a little bit weird. So yeah, I agree with you. That would have been very cool to have like character specific armor sets or job specific armor sets as well, because there are so many different jobs. If they'd gone for the job style armor for the different jobs, that could have been very cool, because then you could have had, you know, different armor set depending on the job that you're playing, which would have been really cool. I think there's a lot of potential there. Certainly if they do decide to add additional DLC or make a sequel, I don't know, we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. The other thing I loved was the level designs. The level design and the music in this game was really good. They did not do a good job with the trailers advertising this game and showing what this game was going to look like, because some of the levels were really, really cool. Some of them were downright beautiful, some of the levels. And the way the levels were structured, and they had some really cool like little puzzle solving bits to figure out pathways through, and you could interact with some of the levels. Like I think there was a really cool one where you could change like the weather, right? And it would open up pathways and things like that. So I think the level designs, I really enjoyed them. And I know for you, like you got a lot of like little Easter egg references to other Final Fantasy games, particularly with the music, because you were commenting so many times. You go, oh yeah, it's from this, or it's from that. So
yeah,
I'm sure you appreciated that.
I did appreciate it. Like the one that really got me was, like you said, the weather changing level, because those woods, you could just about hear the Final Fantasy 13
Yeah,
soundtrack
yeah,
in there for one
yeah.
of the
And you
levels.
can do that
And
in
it's
one of
just
the
like,
levels where you change the weather and it brings out different enemies, doesn't it? During sunlight and
it does in
rain
13,
and
yeah.
stuff in
So
13.
it's
It's
great for
cool. Is that when they're
nostalgia
on
in
Grand
terms of that.
Pulse? When they're on Grand Pulse? When you do that? Or is it before? Maybe. It doesn't matter.
Some of them are on Grand Pulse. I think it was actually on Cocoon.
Cocoon, right? Okay. Yeah.
Oh god, that's forgive me now, people. It's been about probably 10 plus years since I played the damn game.
Yeah, taking us back. Not bad. Yeah. Yeah, the level designs were great, and the music was really good too. Sometimes, like I did really enjoy the little head nods, and it does really highlight how good some of the music is in the Final Fantasy games. I think they were definitely pulling on the whole nostalgia. You know, they were very much targeted. This game was very much, I feel, targeted at Final Fantasy fans.
I mean, the thing is, you don't need to have played the Final Fantasy
No.
games to probably play this
You
because
don't, yeah.
it's pretty much a team-based game. I mean, the classes. I mean, if you like playing the old character class games like from Final Fantasy 1 upwards, where you could be a dragoon or you could be a red mage or a warrior or a knight, you've got your elements right there. But I will say that that's the strongest part of it. So whoever did the level design, whoever did the combat, whoever did the co-op side of it, in terms of that,
Well done.
well done.
Yeah.
It's definitely enjoyable for that. I wouldn't play single player, but the co-op, more combat, level design, bang on with the music.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. Awesome. And those are important parts, most definitely. Of course, let's talk about our dislikes, right? Because there are some things we had issues with, and there are some things we definitely had discussions about. My biggest issue with the game, and this for me is it, you know, the kind of gamer I am. So this is, gameplay is key. Don't get me wrong. Gameplay is key. It's a game. It's meant to be played, right? So gameplay is key. But story is pretty crucial for my enjoyment and immersion in the game. And I have to say, for me, the weakest part of Stranger of Paradise was the storytelling. I was lost on so many occasions where I was like, what the hell is going on? What are they talking about? What are they referencing? Everything was very, very vague. We had short cutscenes in between segments, but not much character development, not for my liking anyway. I'm not asking for Mass Effect levels of character development, don't get me wrong, but I would have liked some character development at least throughout the story, because it makes you care about the characters, and I just found myself really not caring. Like, Jack is one of the least likable of like main protagonists in a Final Fantasy game. I liked him even less. I liked him even less than I liked Noctis in Final Fantasy 15, and I didn't really like him. So Jack was way worse. There's nothing redeemable or likable about him at all, I felt. But I don't think you're supposed to like him because of what happens. No spoilers. But the characters, they just didn't do a very good job of developing them. So by the time it got to like key certain points in the story and things really started to like roll very quickly, you know, it's very slow paced, I feel. And then towards the end of the game, it really picks up pace and everything just happens. It sort of snowballs, you know, in terms of the story events. But I didn't really care. I'm like, oh, well, okay, sure. But I didn't feel like I was invested. And I think that's because of the way in which the story was told or the way in which it was handled. I think it could have been better.
I think of all the characters that got kind of any kind of dialogue or kind of progression or build-up was Neon and Jed.
Yeah.
Those two. Jed, because more he was like, he didn't feel he was worthy of being in the group and he has all self-confidence issues. And Neon, because she wasn't even part, spoilers, she wasn't part of the original four.
Yeah.
So it's like, you see these two characters kind of going through and they've got the most dialogue. I feel like either something was cut or the idea of what they did on paper, like the data files where you're running around the levels and you see little segments.
Yeah,
or
the
little kind
little
of
lore segments that you can collect.
See, that was fine if you had more of them, or you had them peppered around more evenly. But there was unless we were being very blind and we couldn't find them all. It felt like big gaps before we would see any more little story bits that would explain bits of what was going on.
Yeah.
And the problem I have with the cast is the age-old argument of, if you're going to have a character of amnesia, or you're going to have a character that is pretty much this type of mindset, why? So when we looked at, say, Jack and I don't mind saying this a little bit because I don't think it's going to spoil too much, his original version of himself was completely go happy and lucky, and every time that it would reset, he would be still normal. But then for some bizarre reason, this one time,
he was a jackass.
He was a dick.
Yeah. That made no sense. Yeah, so all the flashbacks and stuff, he's like a nice guy. You're like, okay, right, he's a nice guy then, but why is he like this now? What's happened?
Why change now?
Yeah.
And there's the argument of, if you're going to give me a game where we can play these like basically like paper thin characters, why not let me make my own character? Because then at least I'm a stranger. It fits the idea. But again, like, I can get why they were going down this route. They wanted it to be anybody, but it feels like they could have literally, it's a bit of a weird one to me personally. At the very least, it's not the worst story I've ever seen. Which you might go, what? I have seen far worse, but it's definitely up there for just kind of bare bones.
Yeah.
And I have no intention of doing the season pass.
No, me neither.
Because I'm sure that they're probably going to have some kind of additional story. I'll make you the bet now that there'll be like an alternate ending, or there'll be some kind of like add-on to that sort of BS. I'm like, no, I'm not being caught up by that. Yeah. But yeah, the story itself, very much kind of no. The one thing I will say though is that what annoyed me as well was you could go back to town, and what was the point?
Yeah, there was no point in it.
It wasn't adding anything. Again, another feature which, kind of like with the crafting, you put these little things in and then did nothing with them.
Like you could play multiplayer through most of it, right? But then there were these little segments where it's like, and now we're going to force you back into this little single player segment just so you can go back to town and talk to this person and talk to that person and talk to that person. Why we couldn't have stayed together? And then, not to spoil anything with the end of it, but then towards the end, it forces you back into single player for story reasons. But after you've played cooperatively, like the whole way through, it is a big difficulty spike for me. Those last couple of levels where you have to play by yourself because you've been used to playing as a team and working off of each other, and you got into a rhythm. That rhythm was completely thrown away. So I don't think I struggled as much because I was a very up close physical fighter, whereas you were playing like a mage class, right? And like you got up to one bit where I was like, oh no, like, oh shit, like this is bad. This is like kind of like rage quit levels of like, oh, this is bullshit kind of thing.
Because predominantly I'd been ranged for so long.
You had, and then it threw you into that situation with no prior warning. There was no warning to say, right, oh, and by the way, if you've got any other side missions and you might want to grind or level up, you need to do them before you do this mission. There are other games before, like I've played, where when you get to that final penultimate mission, it goes, fair warning, this is what's going to happen, right? So maybe you want to grind and level a little bit so you're a little bit stronger, before you go into it.
That's the problem as well. Like, we did the main story, and to do the final story mission that was solo, you had to grind anyway. And the problem there was, it was kind of, I hate these artificial like time extenders.
Yeah.
There's no point if you're going to give me side quest content. Then give me side quest storylines, like engage by going, oh, by the way, before doing the main story, did you want to know a bit more about Jed, or you want to know a bit more about? Like they were doing that with the boss fights, but give us more, like
I
even
agree.
levels.
Yeah, all of the side missions were throwaway. They were like, go back through this level and kill this boss, or kill this little mini boss, or go back and find this or destroy this. They weren't interesting. The side missions, they were purely purpose was just to grind. To get better gear and get better loot and level.
Had the story more into it, like if they integrated the story files in the side quests, it would be a good incentive, because it was kind of like, okay, there's more, I'm learning more about the game while doing the side content, and it's rewarding me for doing so. Like the gear was the issue. You got to get gear anyway from the main missions or side, irrespective. So it did feel like a chore single player. Like like team wise co-op was fine because we could talk to each other.
Yeah. 100% with you on that one. Obviously, last few dislikes, really. We have mentioned about the smithy and the leveling of the gear, particularly as you get towards end game. One of the things that you can do is by dismantling gear, you get like materials, and then you can use these at a smithy to level up the different sub abilities, or change them if you want to do so. That smithy ability to level your gear was pointless. I mean, we didn't spend any of those materials, and we'd put 50 hours into the game and got to the end game stuff and still didn't have enough to level up gear. And I never used it. Like, it felt pointless because we kept getting new gear all the time.
Yeah, like there was to me no point unless you could dismantle an ability onto a new weapon. Like, there wasn't even that feature. I think it was basically which is a shame because it would have been kind of cool to, oh, do you like this weapon? Great. Yeah. Move the ability from that weapon to this weapon.
Yeah, or like change the affinity, the job affinity. So, oh, you want that armor set for samurai, but you've got like a completely different job on it, which didn't make any sense. Move the job affinity across, or level it up so you can level it to a higher level, right? Like to increase your level cap. Like, yeah, I feel like that was pointless, that system. I don't know why they needed it.
I think, like I said, you know, at the beginning of the conversation, where it's like, if they made a sequel, there was like they would hopefully pick up on these things and upgrade it. Yeah. Like, I think these little things they put in, like the weapon upgrading or the armor upgrading, and like kind of talking in towns and getting more information for side quests and stuff. This would have all been, if they built on it, I think it would be a lot higher. Yeah. In terms of what we think. Yeah. I don't know. I did enjoy this game.
Yeah. The bare bones of what there is good. These are just suggestions of what would really get it those higher scores and improve it. It needs a transmog system, man. Oh, it needs a transmog system. I want to be able to look swish, but still have good stats. I don't have to sacrifice one for the other. Yeah, like I said, I love transmog systems in games. I will always go there in every game.
With me and God Eater, because me and a friend of mine.
You just want to look cool. You want to look cool while you're playing. You know, everybody does, right? I mean, some people get a kick out of it. Some people like play Elden Ring and they get a kick of like wearing a bloody, I don't know, a paper bag or whatever on their head. You
need to look my God Eater 3 playthrough with Strife.
I do need to watch that. Yeah, that is on my list.
Like demonic scythe and all sorts of look pretty cool.
I love looking cool. So transmog, I'm all about transmog. So I hope they would introduce that later, maybe in an update. So those are our general thoughts on what we liked and disliked. Overall score, what would you give it? Have you got any ideas on what you would give it out of 10, Edge?
So, I would give it a 6.57 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The reason for that is, and again, when people hear like these kind of reviews of like 6.5 or, oh, that's terrible. No, a 5 is an average.
Yeah, it's an average, so it's above average. Yeah.
So it's not bad, it's average. 6 is slightly above average. 6.5, 7 is average, borderline, good in areas. So that's kind of the thing that you kind of have to take into account when we're kind of reviewing it. Now, obviously, if you give it higher, great on you guys. You know, I think if you enjoy, that's what the main thing is. If you enjoyed the game, brilliant. If you decided that it was worse than that, again, you know, everyone's to have their opinion. But for me, 6.57. You really enjoyed the co-op. Really enjoyed the leveling the classes and kind of working in with you, playing with you. But other than that, everything else was kind of just average or less.
Kind of. Agree with you 100%. I'm kind of similar to you. I was teetering between a 6 or 7 out of 10. I'm leaning more towards a 6. I think the combat is great. I think the core of what's there is really, really good, but I think it is held back by its weak storytelling. I feel like its side missions could have been a lot better and a lot more. They could have really helped the story, the side missions, instead of them being throwaway missions. Like you said as well, I like the look and feel of the armor, but it could have been handled better, so they felt more worth it. You know, that that chase, you know, for gear. I didn't feel like it had really any purpose. So yeah, and then obviously, yeah, I mean, if I wouldn't have enjoyed this game as much if it wasn't for playing it cooperatively. I would say if I was going to score, if you were playing it solo, I actually think this game is an average to below average game. I'd say maybe 5 out of 10 if you were playing it single player.
AI is painful.
4 or 5 out of 10 easily if you're playing it single player. But if you are playing it with a friend, and you do have a friend that is interested in picking it up with you, then I do think it is worth checking out, and I do think it is a fun time, and I think it's an above average to getting to good, not quite there, but it's definitely above average, you know. I would say maybe this game is worth getting in sale. I don't think it's worth the £60, £50 asking price. Personally,
I got mine. I managed to get mine on a cheap deal anyway. So
yeah. So I would say, like, if it, you know, I think it's worth maybe waiting until it comes down in price a little bit if you're still on the fence on it. But certainly, you know, it's a fun game, and I'm glad we played it, and I did enjoy my experience with it. It's not a game where I'm like, I'd never want to play that again. And the fact that I've put 50 hours into this game should give you some indication of actually how much I enjoyed it, because I don't have time. Given the amount of content and games I have to play for the channel, I don't have time to waste 50 or 60 hours on a game that I'm not enjoying. So that should give you an indication.
I will be intrigued by our top 5 games of this year, at the end of this year at some point, because I reckon there's going to be some polarizing. Watch the Space People, by the way, just this clip, I'm making the call now. I'll be intrigued to see the polarizing level of what games we all like prefer, like Fish, Dante, yourself.
Yeah, because we play different. It's going to be interesting.
I guarantee I've already played 3 games you've not touched yet.
Oh, I'll have a chat about that after this then. But yeah, so those are our thoughts on Stranger of Paradise. Hope you guys enjoyed the review discussion there. We just really, this is off the cuff, kind of our first impressions, our thoughts on it. We tried to go in as much detail for you guys to give you guys the most informed opinion on it, so you guys can make that informed decision when deciding whether to play it. So I hope you guys found this review interesting, useful. Please do share your thoughts. Give us some feedback in the comment section what you guys thought of the review. If you've played the game, please keep it spoiler free. That is important. But do share your thoughts on it. What did you like? What did you dislike? If you have any further questions about Stranger of Paradise that we didn't answer in this review, please do put those in the comment section as well, and Edge and I will do our best to answer those questions for you as well if we did miss anything that you wanted covering. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already done so. Go check out Edge's channel, Edge Plays. He's got some cool stuff on there, and you probably have more stuff coming hopefully in the future. Potentially
I've got a video coming up showcasing a little bit of a game I've been playing called Eludian Chronicle Writing, which is like a prelude game. I will also be playing a game at some point showcasing called Edge of Eternity. That came out in February of this year. It's another RPG. I will be soon doing Monster Hunter Rise videos again, because my channel was originally created.
I can't wait to play that again with you. Sunbreak.
The amount of trolling I used to do with you guys last few years back when the channel was created.
Yeah.
So there's going to be plenty of content, and obviously I do have some thoughts about Resident Evil 4 remake reveal.
Awesome.
So I will be doing a
video. To look forward to then.
At that some point as well.
Fabulous, fantastic. But anyway, hope you guys having a great week. Of course, take care, everybody, and as always, happy gaming. Bye, guys.
Bye.